What's up, y'all? This is Brave, and I'm back to review Sistas. This is season 7, episode 12 or 13. One of those. The episode is titled Next Level. I'm going to be completely honest with y'all. This episode, considering, they were coming back, it should have been a bigger bang. But I digress. We start this episode off with Karen, okay? She at her house, her mama pop up, and basically she got to tell her mama that, oh my gosh, I got pregnant by 2 men at the same time. That's basically what went down, okay? So her mom is like, oh, well, it shouldn't even matter, as long as you have these healthy babies. Zach is in your corner. Of course, Aaron want to be a daddy. So what's the problem? But Karen is like, well, people are going to judge me because I'm having twins and they got 2 different daddies. And it's like, but Karen, you already knew that people was going to judge you to begin with. Because, number one, Zach was not your man when you was humping on him. So, he was technically with Fatima. Girl, we're giving you a side eye already. Then on top of that, your kids having 2 different fathers, baby, it is what it is. Those are the consequences of your actions. So, next thing you know, Zach ends up calling her. And at first, she didn't want to answer, right? So then Karen does end up answering the phone. And, Zach, he like, what's the results? What's going on? And she tells him, oh, I just want you to come over tomorrow. At least I think she said for him to come over tomorrow. Not the same day. But she wanted him to come over so that way she could tell him the results in person. Here's my thing. If he took a DNA test, right? Why is she the only one getting results? Shouldn't they give the results to him in his email or something? I'm just curious. Nonetheless, y'all, I'm honestly just going to wrap this right on up with the Fatima, Karen, Zach, Aaron, that whole little mosh podge right there. We're going to go ahead and talk about this. So, Zach and Fatima, we see them in the morning. They got the little boy eating breakfast or whatever. And basically he tells her that, hey, I tried to talk to Karen about the results, but she told me that I need to come over. She want to tell me in person. Fatima, she feel like that's the green light for her to go ahead and show up to Karen's house because her and Zach are a package deal. And at this point, I want Karen to accept that those 2 are a package deal. Anytime you see Zach, you gonna see Fatima because she don't trust your ass. Straight up. So, later on, Zach finally gets there, or whatever, to Karen's house. Him and Fatima show up. And, they ready to know who the daddy is. Who is this child's father? But no, we gotta wait. Because there's supposed to be a special guest. Right? Well, here's the thing. We wait on the special guest, and there's a knock at the door. Okay? Now, I gotta go circle back a little bit for y'all. Because there was a conversation had between Danny and Sabrina. Now, in that conversation, we had Sabrina trying to tell Danny that she needs to apologize to Karen. Danny, she feel like she don't need to apologize because she always the first one to apologize. So then Sabrina goes on to be like, well, you said some harsh stuff to Karen. Danny's rebuttal, well, she said some harsh stuff to me. I said, okay, so we're not getting nowhere with this. Now, here's the thing. Is Karen innocent in this battle? Absolutely not. She isn't. There has been multiple times where Karen has said some foul things about Danny and vice versa. As far as this whole I don't want y'all to bring Fatima around situation, here's the thing. This wasn't even her event. The whole point that when they met up on the last episode was to celebrate Sabrina. Wasn't it? I think it was Sabrina. They were supposed to be celebrating. So, you can't be mad if Fatima comes because this was not your thing that was planned. And the thing is, the other ladies don't have a problem with Fatima. Only you do, Karen. And like Danny said, she likes Fatima. She thinks she a cool girl. Let me tell you something. Danny has been trying to be friends with Fatima since she first met her, if we want to be completely honest. The only person who has a problem with Fatima is Karen. And her reason behind not liking Fatima is over Zach. Because when she first met Fatima, when they went out for drinks that one time, she was cool with her. So her only issue at this point is because this woman is with Zach and she ain't. Here's my thing. Honestly, I'm kind of drained on the Karen versus Fatima situation because it's like he's already moved on to Fatima. What the hell else are we still holding anger towards each other for? And like, I'm sorry, but Fatima has already said multiple times how she would not mistreat Karen's child. That's not the type of person that she is. None of that. However, Karen has come at Fatima sideways multiple times. So now when she get that same energy back, it's like, oh, how dare she because I'm pregnant. Like, it's very strange. But back to this whole Danny and Sabrina conversation or whatever. So basically, what's her name? Danny, she feels like, she can maybe apologize to her friend, Karen. She's going to stop by her house later, right? So now we got to go forward. Remember I said there was a knock at the door. Well, that knock was not the special guest that Karen was expecting. It was Danny. Baby Danny strolled right on in. And then she had the audacity to let the cat out the bag to be like, oh, this is all about the DNA test? Oh, Zach, you followed my advice. Now, Daniela, why did you even have to say that? I just think it's so messy that Danny decided to play those types of games to be like, ha, the guy who you so interested in, I got him following my instructions. Like, it was very strange. And I get it. Should he have done a DNA test? Absolutely, because we don't know who the kids belong to. And as a man, you should probably know who are your kids and who not. But also at the same time, I just wish that Danny would have just minded her business. Like, once you found out that they were doing the DNA test results, you could have just said, okay, well, since I'm here, who's the dad? You could have left it at that. Because at the end of the day, you have Karen thinking that this is all Fatima pushing him to get a DNA test. Fatima, she thinking that it was a decision that her and Zach made together. And no, it wasn't even any of those things. It was because he had a conversation with his friend, Danny, and he ended up taking that advice. Now, if I was Karen, I would be pissed off. Absolutely. Because like she told Danny, you're stabbing me in the back. Like, how are we supposed to be good girlfriends? We supposed to be sisters or whatever. And you telling the dude who I was laying down with that, yeah, you should probably get a DNA test. That's crazy. No friends would do that to each other. But let's go ahead and move on because we have to talk about the fact that the special guest finally shows up. And it's Aaron, of course. At this point, Karen finally says, both of y'all the daddies. I got fraternal twins, one by you, Zach, and one by you, Aaron. All right, fine. Everybody's like, wow, how'd that happen? Blah, blah, blah. Whatever. You see, Danny decides to backpedal and skedaddle out the goddamn door. Keep in mind, Karen told her, don't you tell nobody else. You know she gonna tell somebody else. More than likely, it will be Sabrina. Okay? So, then, Zach and Fatima, they end up leaving, right? Zach, he's still trying to give Aaron some heat. I'm not understanding why at this point. Like, his hate for Aaron is ridiculous. Like, hell, he not even with Karen. You don't want Karen. Why is there any beef here? But nonetheless, like I said, Zach and Fatima leave. You can tell that Fatima's definitely feeling some type of way because Zach keeps referencing Karen's child as, oh, that's going to be my daughter. That's going to be my baby girl, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. She feeling away. However, Aaron wants to have a conversation with Karen. Baby, she paid him absolute dust. Like, oh, no, I'm tired. But you go ahead and close up. You go ahead and close the door behind you when you leave. I'm like, damn, ain't nothing changed. Aaron, this woman don't want you. And she don't want to be bothered with you at all. She has proven that time and time again. So, y'all, that was pretty much their whole little storyline, right? Let me go ahead and talk about who do I want to go to next. Oh, Andy and Gary real quick. Y'all, this saga, I'm drained. Okay? Because we get to Gary's office. Andy is still trying to get him to answer questions about where Penelope is. What are her whereabouts? And Gary is playing in her and Fatima's face. Okay? He not about to tell her nothing. So Fatima ends up putting a knife to his throat. He goes on to say that, Penelope is ignoring Andy. And then he tries to flip it on Andy to make it seem like Andy got something to do with this girl disappearing. Now, we all know that that's not true. However, one thing that Gary gonna do, he gonna flip some stuff around. So, the girls, they decide that they're gonna leave, right? And on their way out, Andy notices that there was some blood on a wall, right? And I'm like, you noticed that there was blood on the wall. And throughout this entire episode, I'm just like, are you never going to reference that again, what you saw? What is wrong with you? Because then we saw Andy and Fatima, they in the car. She tells her that she saw the blood on the wall. And Andy's like, oh, I got to go to the police. And then Fatima has to remind her, like, oh, that's cool and all, but maybe you should tell Jordan to file a police report that maybe his sister is missing. So then we have Andy. She on the phone with Jordan. Here's the crazy thing about this. Andy is on the phone with Jordan, right? Telling him about how, oh, hey, babe, what are you doing, blah, blah, blah. He's supposed to be in another town, another city, because he has some press thing that he has to do, right? They don't even talk about his sister, right? Until later on, I think we saw, like, Fatima talk to Andy or whatever, because she was telling her, like, oh, I wasn't able to tell him about his sister. They have a conversation about how crazy Gary is, and, he knows where Penelope is. And I'm just like, okay, so what are y'all going to do about it, okay? Because the next time that we saw Andy, I think she ended up having a phone conversation with Jordan about trying to find Penelope or something like that. And then Jordan was back in town randomly. I feel like this is all in the same day. He was back in town. They about to get it popping. And she tells him, oh, no, your sister's missing. I'm like, what the hell? Like, I just feel like this whole Penelope, Jordan, Gary, Andy situation is being dragged out. And I'm not exactly interested. I'm not. Especially after the fact that Andy was chasing after Jordan like, oh my God, I'm going to come with you. Because he was pissed off that she didn't tell him that his sister was missing. And how Gary could possibly have something to do with it. And I get why he was pissed off. Now, what's crazy to me, in that whole scene, that scene where she told him about his sister, that whole scene was giving me Young and the Restless. It was giving me soap opera. I said, what the hell am I watching? So, because she said that Gary probably has something to do with it, they decided to go to the police station. Well, here's the thing. One thing about Gary, he always gonna be 2 steps ahead of Andy, ain't he? He ended up already being at the police station, telling him the story that, my fiance is missing. And I think my ex has something to do with it. So he tried to plant all this on Andy, y'all. And once he finally saw Andy and Jordan were there, next thing you know, Jordan and Gary, they going back and forth. I'm like, all right, enough of this. Enough. But let me go ahead and backtrack to talk about some of the minor things that happened in some of these storylines with Gary and Andy. First things first. We actually saw Gary flirting with Hayden's girlfriend. I can't even remember her name. Y'all know who she is. So, he sending her some flirty text messages or whatever, talking about some, oh, I want you bent over my desk, all this stuff, right? But she's like, oh, no, can't meet with you tonight. Why? It's because Hayden has set up a really cute little date night for them. However, he ends up getting a phone call from Miss Billion Dollar Lady. I think her name was Marie Wilson. He ends up getting a call from her, and basically she's upset because she can't track down Andy. And now she needs him to come into the office so that way they can have some type of meeting. So what does he do? He leaves his girl to go to this meeting with this lady. Well, that opened up the door for her to go see Gary. She went to go see Gary and definitely got bent over that table. Okay? It was what it was. So, at the office, though, later on, Andy is at her office or whatever, and Hayden ends up coming in, and he's like, oh, have you not seen that Marie has been blowing your phone up? Now, Andy is acting like she don't know what he's talking about. Now, Andy, I ain't the smartest person in the bunch, but shouldn't you see some missed calls? Or did you block that woman's number? Because how did you not know? We've seen you make multiple phone calls to Jordan. How in the world did you not see not a one of that woman's phone calls? It don't even make sense, okay? So, she found out that they had a whole meeting without her or whatever. So now she's trying to figure out, what happened in the meeting. So, I think Marie ended up calling her. And basically was like, oh, so now you know how to answer your phone. Again, I hate the way Marie talks to both of them. I really do. But I'm just really trying to figure out how Andy completely ignored those phone calls. Like, girl, what is you doing? You know that's your bread and butter. Like, did you forget that you were a lawyer? Because you so busy chasing down what Gary doing with Penelope? Nonetheless, we're going to go ahead and move on to Sabrina. She is trying to give herself the shots that she needs to start her IVF journey. Or her egg freezing journey. And she can't bring herself to do it, right? Because before she can even poke herself with the needle, here goes Maurice arguing with that one white woman at the job, right? So Maurice is just arguing, or whatever. And Sabrina literally had to go over there and break it up. And basically we learned that they are fighting over the fact that that lady had a Diet Coke or whatever. And Maurice ended up drinking it. So now she pissed off because that was her drink. So Sabrina takes Maurice to the back or whatever. And they have a conversation about the fact that, people are already suspecting that the only reason why you're here is because of me. Nothing to do with his work ethic. Nothing to do with, what Maurice actually brings to the table. Just the fact that he's cool with Sabrina, that was able to afford him his job back. So basically, he cannot get into it with the coworkers anymore. Maurice can't. But I did like the fact that he was able to give her a shot. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, Sabrina and Maurice, they are real friends. And I'm glad he could be there for her in that manner. But Maurice, get it together. Don't be over stealing people drinks at the job, okay? Okay, so at one point, they started having a conversation about her and Rich. I didn't really care about it. Only thing we saw with Sabrina and Rich this episode was they were watching some show on TV, and next thing you know, they wanted to hook up together. Whoop-de-doo. All right, so the last person I want to talk about is Maurice. Y'all, can I just be completely honest about his storyline with that guy? I don't care about it enough, I guess, because I'm disconnected from it. The storyline that we have going with Maurice is the fact that he met a guy who was a part of his fixation page, but now he took down the fixation page. This guy wants to solely, exclusively date him. And I feel like as an audience, there's a disconnect, and we don't know this man. Like, who is he? When are they going on dates? When can we see that? Because we spent a lot of time watching Q, y'all. We watched Q for a while. So this guy, he should be on the show way more. You know what I'm saying? Let's actually show a gay couple. But I highly doubt that they're willing to do that. Oh, last thing, I almost forgot all about this. Daniela, why you let Tony play in your face? Because Tony rolls up on Danny and tells her that she needs to babysit his kids. Well, he asks if she can babysit his kids because, he had a big meeting coming up that he didn't want to miss out on. And she's the only person that he knew could possibly be available. So she agrees to it. But this is what threw me off. Why are they at your house? That man said, okay, well, my meeting doesn't start till 7. She says, oh, well, I'm going to go to Karen's before, I go home today. He said, oh, don't worry, we'll be waiting at your house. We'll be waiting at your apartment. That's a problem for me. You mean to tell me that you couldn't watch those kids at their house? Where they will be, number one, more comfortable. Number two, have all of their things readily available. Like, it doesn't even make sense. So, when she comes back home, or whatever, Rich is sitting there with his 2 bratty kids, and Danny is the babysitter in her tiny apartment. I'm just like, what are we doing here? So then at one point, we see that Tony's daughter found some handcuffs or whatever, and she's like, oh, what are these for? And of course, Danny's like, oh, ask your dad or whatever. It's for a game that we play. I was so annoyed because I feel like that type of scene has happened so many times on so many different TV shows where the kids find something inappropriate in the adult's room. Like, first of all, this woman don't even have a bedroom. Secondly, again, why are we watching these kids at her house? She ain't even got food in her refrigerator. Like, what is happening right now? So next thing you know, Tony actually appears or whatever. He came to get his kids. And I'm just like, yeah, finally. Okay? Because maybe now, she'll have a little bit of breathing room. But y'all, that was pretty much the episode. Let me know what y'all thought about it. Do y'all think it was a good way for them to open up the mid-season? Go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. And I will talk to you in my next review. Bye, guys.